Carl Dean remained an enigma, the man who spent a lifetime married to one of the most famous women in country music, yet avoided the spotlight at all costs. Despite his deep love for Dolly Parton, whispers about his true feelings toward her fame surfaced before his passing. Did he quietly harbor resentment? And if so, what fueled his frustration? Let's unravel the lesser-known side of their love story. Carl Thomas Dean was never drawn to the glitz and glamour that surrounded Dolly. While she captivated audiences worldwide, he preferred a secluded life away from flashing cameras and adoring crowds. Their marriage in 1966 raised eyebrows. How could a woman so immersed in show business sustain a relationship with someone who loathed fame? And yet, for decades, their bond endured. Dolly often spoke fondly of Carl's reclusive nature, describing him as a source of stability in her whirlwind career. But beneath that quiet devotion, did unspoken tensions exist? Close sources suggest Carl struggled with the reality of being married to a global superstar. He reportedly detested the relentless touring, media attention, and the lack of privacy that came with being Dolly Parton's husband. As Dolly's stardom grew, so did the distance between them. Some claim Carl resented the world's constant demand for his wife's presence. Others believe he felt overshadowed, not by another man, but by the enormity of her career. While Dolly belonged to millions of fans, Carl may have longed for more moments where she was simply his wife, away from the pressures of celebrity life. In his final years, accounts suggest Carl opened up about his struggles. He allegedly confided in close friends, admitting that he felt like a spectator in his own marriage, watching as Dolly's commitments always took precedence. "I wanted Dolly, not the superstar," he reportedly shared. "I wanted a quiet life, just the two of us." Despite his frustration, there was no doubt about the depth of their love. Carl's avoidance of the spotlight was never a sign of indifference, rather, it was his way of preserving a sense of normalcy in their relationship. Dolly herself acknowledged that their differing lifestyles posed challenges, but she never doubted his unwavering support. Carl's presence in Dolly's life was not defined by public appearances or red carpet moments, but by the private sanctuary he provided for her. Their love story defied industry norms, built not on constant validation, but on deep understanding. Even as rumors swirled about Carl's discomfort with Dolly's fame, their marriage stood the test of time. As he neared the end of his life, Carl reportedly reflected on the decades they spent together. Some close to him claimed he expressed a longing for simpler days, before the world claimed a piece of Dolly. Yet, his final sentiments were not of bitterness, but of love. "I just wish we had more time," he was said to have remarked. Those who knew Carl best understood the depth of his devotion to Dolly. Through the years, he had remained steadfastly in the background, allowing her to shine as one of the most beloved icons in music history. It had never been about fame for Carl. In fact, he actively avoided the limelight. He was a man of quiet strength, finding contentment in the simple joys of life, their home in Tennessee, the laughter they shared over breakfast, and the solace of knowing that, despite the demands of her career, Dolly had always been his. When Carl and Dolly married in 1966, few could have predicted the longevity of their union. The world of entertainment is often unkind to love, yet theirs endured. They had wed in secret, away from the press and the prying eyes of fans, in a small ceremony with only her mother as a witness. It was a deliberate choice, one that set the tone for their private life together. Dolly once remarked that Carl was the only person in her life who truly saw her as just another person, not as a star. Through the decades, Carl supported her in his own quiet way. While Dolly conquered the music industry, the big screen, and even business ventures, Carl remained a steady presence in the background. He chose not to attend her public events, not out of indifference, but out of a desire to keep their relationship sacred. He valued their privacy above all else. It was a dynamic that worked for them, a love that thrived in its own unique way. Yet, as the years passed and Carl's health declined, those close to him noticed a shift. He grew more nostalgic, reminiscing about the early days of their marriage when life had been simpler. He would talk about the long drives they took through the Tennessee hills, the nights they spent sitting on the porch, and the mornings when Dolly would sing to him before the world called her away. He never resented her success, but there were moments when he missed the quiet life they once shared before she became a global sensation. Still, there was never a trace of regret in his words. If anything, Carl was immensely proud of his wife. He understood that Dolly had been destined for greatness, that her talent and spirit were too immense to be contained. He had always known that loving her meant sharing her with the world, and so he did, selflessly and unconditionally. As his final days approached, Carl found peace in the memories they built together. Those close to him recall how he would smile when speaking of Dolly, his eyes lighting up even as his body grew weaker. He never spoke of what-ifs or what could have beens. Instead, he simply cherished what was. "I just wish we had more time," he reportedly said, a sentiment that echoed the hearts of all who had witnessed their love story unfold. Dolly, in turn, was by his side, just as she had been through all their years together. Though the world may have seen her as an unstoppable force, an icon of resilience and ambition, to Carl she was always just his Dolly, the woman who made their house a home, who loved him deeply and without reservation. After Carl's passing, Dolly spoke openly about the profound loss she felt. She had known it was coming, yet nothing could have prepared her for the emptiness left in his absence. But rather than dwelling in sorrow, she chose to honor him the way he would have wanted, with love, laughter, and music. She found solace in the memories they created, in the quiet moments that no one else had been privy to. In interviews, she would smile through her tears, speaking of Carl as the greatest love of her life. "He let me be me," she once said, "and that's the best gift anyone can give." Their story, though not one that unfolded in the public eye, became a testament to the kind of love that endures through fame, distance, and time itself. In a world where relationships are often fleeting, Carl and Dolly prove that true love does not demand attention. It thrives in the quiet, in the unsaid, in the unwavering support of two people who simply belong to each other. Even now, Dolly carries his love with her. She speaks of him often, ensuring that his memory remains alive, not just in her heart, but in the hearts of all who admire the bond they shared. For Carl, love was never about grand gestures or public displays. It was about standing by the one you love, even from the shadows, and knowing that your presence alone was enough. Dolly often reflects on the many years they spent together, cherishing the quiet, private moments that truly defined their love story. To the world, she was a shining star, her voice lighting up stages and touching millions of lives. But to Carl, she was simply Dolly, his best friend, his confidant, his greatest love. He never sought the spotlight, never craved the fame that surrounded his wife. Instead, he found contentment in supporting her from afar, ensuring that the woman he loved could continue to chase her dreams without hesitation or concern. Their love was built on trust, mutual respect, and an understanding that words were not always necessary. It was a love that thrived in simplicity, mornings spent sharing coffee on their front porch, evenings spent watching old westerns, and the countless letters and notes they exchanged over the decades. Dolly has often joked that Carl's idea of romance was a handwritten note left on the kitchen counter, telling her how much he loved her before heading out to tend to his business. Those small, everyday acts of love meant more to her than any extravagant gift or grand declaration ever could. Even as Dolly continued her worldwide career, performing for sold-out crowds and cementing her legacy in music history, Carl remained steadfastly in the background. He rarely attended her shows, preferring instead to hear about them later from Dolly herself. It wasn't that he wasn't proud, far from it. He simply believed that her world belonged to her, and his presence was not necessary for her success. And Dolly understood. She never took his absence as indifference, but rather as an act of love, a sign that he trusted her to shine on her own. Despite their vastly different public personas, Dolly the vibrant and ever-present entertainer and Carl the quiet and reserved businessman, their bond never wavered. It was a testament to their deep understanding of one another. In interviews, Dolly has expressed how lucky she was to have found a partner who never tried to dim her light, but instead encouraged her to shine even brighter. Their love story, spanning decades, serves as an example of devotion and commitment in a world where such qualities are often fleeting. In a society that often equates love with grandiose gestures, theirs was refreshingly different, rooted in a steadfast companionship that weathered every storm, every challenge, and every moment of doubt. When asked about the secret to their enduring marriage, Dolly has often quipped that the key was space, knowing when to give each other room to grow while always remaining connected at the heart. Even now, after Carl has passed, his love remains a constant presence in Dolly's life. She often speaks of the lessons he taught her, the unwavering support he provided, and the joy he brought to her life. She keeps his memory alive not through sorrow, but through gratitude, grateful for the years they had together, for the love they shared, and for the man who stood beside her, even when the world wasn't watching. She continues to find ways to honor him, whether through music, stories, or simply by living the life they built together. To Dolly, Carl is not truly gone. He exists in the songs she sings, in the laughter they once shared, and in the countless memories they created over the years. His love remains her guiding force, a silent yet powerful reminder that true love never fades. It only transforms, taking on new shapes and meanings as life continues to unfold. As she moves forward, she does so with the same warmth and light that Carl so dearly loved. She carries his love in every step, in every song, and in every word she speaks about their time together. To those who listen, her stories of Carl are more than just memories. They are a testament to a love that, even in its quietest moments, was boundless and enduring. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson their love story teaches us. That love doesn't need an audience to be real. It doesn't need grand gestures to be meaningful. Sometimes, the truest love exists in the small, everyday moments, in the unspoken words, in the simple act of choosing each other, day after day, year after year. Dolly and Carl found that love, nurtured it, and carried it through a lifetime. And even now, that love remains, as strong and steadfast as ever. And so, as he took his final breath, there was no bitterness, no regret, only love, only the wish for more time. A sentiment that perhaps we all share when faced with the fleeting nature of life and the immeasurable depth of true love. When news of Carl's passing emerged, Dolly remained silent, grieving in private. But when she did speak, her words carried the weight of a lifetime of love. He was my heart, my best friend, the one who truly knew me. Carl D. may have spent his life in the background of Dolly Parton's dazzling career, but he was never insignificant. He was the steady force behind the legend, the man who loved her in a way that required no spotlight. And while the world will always see Dolly as an icon, Carl knew her as something even more precious, simply as Dolly.